People think the brain just fades on its own, like hair turning gray, like skin wrinkling. They say that's just age. I believed that once too, until I started noticing something uncomfortable, something nobody liked to talk about. I watched men younger than me lose their sharpness while I stayed clear, not because I was smarter, not because I was special, but because I treated mine differently.
Your brain is not loyal. It doesn't stay sharp out of gratitude. It stays sharp out of necessity. In the moment it believes it's no longer needed, it starts packing up. I saw it happen slowly. A friend of mine retired at 65 and decided he was done thinking. His words, not mine. He said he'd earned rest. Days turned into television. Weeks into routines that never changed. He stopped being curious. Stopped solving problems. Stopped asking questions. And his brain listened. At first, it was harmless things. Forgetting names. Losing track of conversations. Laughing it off. But neglect doesn't stay small. It grows quietly. Like rust. The brain is an efficient thing. It doesn't waste energy. If you stop demanding focus, memory, effort, your brain assumes those systems aren't required anymore. So it powers them down, not out of cruelty, out of efficiency. That's the part nobody tells you. Mental decline isn't usually an attack. It's a withdrawal. I realized early that if I treated my mind like something disposable, it would return the favor. So I made a rule for myself. Never let my brain think it's finished. Every day, I gave it a reason to stay awake. Not entertainment, not noise, work, because the brain listens. Always has, always will. The brain doesn't respond to comfort. It responds to challenge. That took me years to understand. Comfort feels good in the moment. Challenge feels annoying, difficult, unnecessary, especially as you get older. But comfort sends a dangerous message. It says, we're done here. So I did the opposite. When something became easy, I changed it. When I could do something without thinking, I replaced it with something that forced focus. I didn't let my mind run on autopilot for too long. People assume mental strength comes from intelligence. It doesn't. It comes from usage. Your brain is like a worker in a factory. If you stop giving it tasks, it assumes the factory is closing. It doesn't ask questions. It just shuts machines down one by one. Memory goes first, then attention, then clarity. I saw it in people who used to be sharp. Accountants who stopped calculating. Musicians who stopped practicing. Readers who stopped reading anything that challenged them. Their brains weren't broken. They were underemployed. So I stayed uncomfortable on purpose. I read things that forced me to slow down. I practiced skills that demanded attention. I chose difficulty when ease was available. Not because I enjoyed struggle, but because I respected my mind. There were days I didn't feel like it. Plenty of them. But the brain doesn't care about how you feel. It cares about what you repeat. Neglect is a habit. So is discipline. And habits teach the brain what to expect. When you feed your mind nothing but easy input, it assumes deep thinking is no longer required. When you demand effort, it adapts. It always adapts. That's what people misunderstand. Decline is not passive. It's trained. The most dangerous moment isn't old age. It's the moment you decide you're done growing. I've met young men with old minds and old men with young ones. Age doesn't decide clarity. Behavior does. The brain listens to patterns. Repetition tells it what matters. If every day looks the same, the brain shrinks the world to match. If nothing new is required, nothing new is maintained. That's why isolation speeds decline. That's why routines without challenge dull the mind. That's why endless distraction weakens attention. The brain wasn't designed to be entertained nonstop. It was designed to solve, remember, adapt. When people say, I'm just forgetful now, what they usually mean is, I stopped asking my brain to remember. That sounds harsh, but it's honest. I kept my mind busy with purpose, not noise. There's a difference. Noise numbs. Purpose sharpens. Even simple things done deliberately keep the mind awake. Paying attention, learning, engaging fully instead of half present. Your brain notices when you show up, and it notices when you don't. I watch people fade, not because time defeated them, but because they surrendered mentally long before their bodies did. That's the tragedy no one warns you about. The brain doesn't suddenly fail. It slowly gives up. If there's one thing I want you to understand, it's this. Your brain is always listening. Every choice tells it something. When you avoid effort, it hears, "We don't need this anymore." When you choose challenge, it hears, "Stay ready." When you stop caring, it hears, "Shut it down." There is no neutral treatment, only messages. You don't need genius. You need respect for your own mind. Respect shows up as consistency, as curiosity, as refusing to mentally retire while you're still alive. People ask me how I stayed clear for so long. I tell them the truth. I never let my brain think it was disposable. I treated it like something that mattered, and it responded. Not perfectly, not forever, but faithfully. Your brain will do the same for you if you give it a reason. Because in the end, the mind doesn't fade from age. It fades from neglect. And that part is a choice.